Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have a very, very special guest today, Jose Pereira. He was one of the Citgo Six. This is going to be a really interesting interview because he's gone through a lot and he has some unique experiences to share that I think a lot of people will benefit from, and not only benefit for their own lives, but for people around them, and how to deal with these kind of situations from a family or supporting role. And because these kind of things can happen to anyone, and it's not something that it seems like it's a distant reality before it happens, but it can happen to a lot of people. And if it happens to someone close to you, it's good to know how to react and how to deal with it and how to overcome these kind of difficulties in life. So to just get started and talk about a little bit about your background and give the people who don't know you, some people might already know about you, just a little bit of background about where you're from and where you grew up and maybe your school education.
Okay. Thank you for having me, Sam. Thank you for the audience hearing me. I'm Venezuelan born and became citizen here like 1.5 decades ago when I came here to the U.S. And I was a long-term worker in the oil industry in Venezuela and PDVSA, the Petróleo de Venezuela, the state-owned company. I made my career back to 1985. I began very young. So I was a former worker during 35 years. I did a long career in the industry and working not only there, I was working with a lot of joint venture companies that work in the oil industry. And at the end, I came here to the U.S. I was assigned and I became across several career paths and became at the end the CEO of the multinational company here. And that was part of my career. I grew up in Venezuela. I'm a third generation of oil workers. So my dad, my mom, my granddad, my grandmom, all of them were oil workers. So literally I have the oil in my bloods. and that's my part of my story.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. And in your situation, I guess, how did this occur? What happened before you were in prison? How did you know that this was going to happen? Could you walk us back a little bit from maybe like a little bit before that happened, like a month before?
Yeah, this is something that today I'm talking extensively is the so-called the hostage diplomacy. That by that time I was not aware about that situation. The thing is that this situation happened to me in November 2017. By that time, the government that was in place here in the U.S. was having a lot of dispute with Venezuela. There was a lot of sanctions and stuff going on there. And we really were unaware that even that we knew that situation was there, we never thought that it could affect us because we were business guys. We were not politicians, nothing like that. So we were called to a last minute meeting in Caracas, and we went. We didn't see nothing abnormal because it was a budget season. It was a budget meeting, so we thought it was normal business. So we were planning to go in a one-day business trip, go and return. I was, by the way, preparing to get retired because I as I said, I had 35 years in the company. I was preparing to get retired, and well, for me, it was like my last business trip before getting retired. And when we get there, there was a very big meeting. It was like 1,000 people in a main conference room in the headquarters in Caracas. And at some point, we were there in the meeting, and then we saw coming some guys with these kind of Robocop outfits. And when we saw the guys with a big sign here saying Dijesin in yellow, and we asked what they were because we were unaware of what was that. We learned that was the counterintelligence military police there. And this guy came against us and they put us a lot of charges. Treason, espionage, corruption, embezzlement, a lot of charges. And when we realized that, we thought that, to tell you the truth, we thought it was a mistake. That they were confusing with another. We never thought about this situation, but when we realized that we were getting there without handcuffs and we were heading to a jail in a military basement, we said, hey, this is becoming serious. And we were totally isolated and incommunicated. And let me tell you, Sam, we stayed 10 months that way. 10 months without knowing about nothing what was going on. The only contact to the exterior world was that they took us like one or two times to that court, and of course it was a sham trial, like all these cases always. And we learned about our situation because of that. When we were headed to the trial, we learned what was the charge, because we didn't have no lawyer, nothing. So for us was a bizarre situation, and we stayed like 10 months in that way. And at some point, we managed to begin to have some kind of a, between the other guys that they were there, some communication, and we get some information from our family that they're working hard for us. So we really truly believe that something that was a mistake that was going to be clarified. And at the end, that's our stay there were 5 years. We stayed there 5 years.
Wow. So it was 10 months until you actually even knew what was going and what the charge was. And at the 10-month point, did they tell you how long you would stay there, or did you not know the whole time?
We like during those 10 months, and around the third month, we had like a 10-minute visit of a lawyer that appeared. And in that 10 minutes, we realized we were the charge, that we were going to a trial, and the charge that they were putting us. And we said, but why? This is a mistake. We learned after that everything was a setup, because they wanted to have some pawns to begin to have in their hands, because that is part of what is the called hostage diplomacy, that with a country that having a dispute with another country, they to take somebody they can is maybe in the wrong place in the wrong moment, and then they use it as a bargain chip, as a political pawn, to begin to use it, to trade it, to negotiate. So this is a ancient practice, but in the modern days, there are a lot of foreign countries that unfortunately are using it. I learned it in the hard way, and now I'm more aware about the situation that we're going to talk later on that, because this is happening in many countries. This pattern has been repeated in many countries, and it's very easy. That they target you because they want to have something to negotiate, and they negotiate with human beings, and they begin to put you in sham trials. They convicted you, so they have a hard negotiation ball in their hands. So that what happened to us after we stayed there, like in the fourth or fifth month being there. The U.S. ambassador was expelled from Venezuela. The situation was so extreme that they expelled the ambassador. Up to today, there's no Venezuela. And when we learned the situation, we really saw that we were left behind. We said, but wow, who is going to come for us? So we literally were left behind. After 10 months, as I said, they begin to give us 1-minute calls, and I figured out about our situation with our family. But our situation at the moment was really scary. We were really in a bad situation there.
How did your family react to all of this? And how long until they knew what was going on?
No, the day one, after some time, I learned that the day one, they were fighting for us. Day one, they begin to fight. It was a difficult situation because our family was here in the U.S. I didn't have family in Venezuela. None of us had family. So it was difficult. And my wife tried to travel. By the way, she traveled one time. I was so scared that she went there, because many bad things happen to the family when they go there. So we decided to them not to be there, but they begin to have quite a conversation with the U.S. government, and the recommendation by that time was that be quiet. They were going to try to negotiate behind the scenes. So they kept quiet like almost 1 year. But when they saw that this was having no tracking, going in no direction, they decided to go to the press. And begin to do a lot of noise. And at that moment is when, in some point, I don't know which press, which journalists, they put us like a brand, that we became the Citgo 6. They put us that name. I don't know where it came from, but from that time we began to be called the Citgo Six. At all instances, even in the government, in the congressman, everybody was talking about us, always referred to us as the Citgo Six. And at some point, the UN, because there was no direct channels, so it was contacted a UN delegation. A UN delegation flew there. They visit us, some guys from the Arbitrary Detention Commission of the UN, and they began to push for us. And by that moment, we were really starving. The food was terrible. We were starving. Everybody lost 50 pounds, 60 pounds, 70 pounds, a lot of loss of weight. And these guys said, hey, these guys are going to die. If you don't give them food and they don't supply medicine, these guys are going to die. So they allow us to begin to bring foods from the exterior, prepare food. So my family managed that somebody to begin to bring me food every 2 days. So every 2 days he brought some foods and we could have some food. And when we begin to see this food that came prepared with these containers, I took the risk. It began to write letters and smuggle inside the containers. So when the guy came to pick up the containers, the first time I don't know how he figured out, he saw my letter. So he sent it to my wife. So my wife received a letter, and then she took the risk and she wrote me back a letter. I received it. So we begin to have like kind of communication between among us and letters. And Sam, we stayed doing that almost 3 years. Almost
Wow.
3 years. We did letters. When I came back here in October, my wife had like 1,000 letters. That became like my diary. And this is the base of my book, by the way. The book I wrote is based on those letters that I wrote at that time.
Wow. Yeah, no, that could be like a movie or something, because I mean, that's real loyalty. And I think a lot of people these days don't have that. And that's incredible. We'll talk a little bit about that later, about the marriage aspect. But do you think it would have been easier if you knew exactly, because I was listening to someone else who had the same situation happen, and they were saying that the hardest part was not knowing how long they were going to be there. So if they just were told 5 years, they'd know, okay, well, I'm here for 5 years. Once that, I'm out. But when you don't know, it makes it a completely different situation. Do you think it would have made a difference?
You're making a question that is the first time I'm getting, and I was thinking on your question. Let me tell you something like what happened to us, because we were plant guys all the life. 35 years working in the oil industry, you always are looking in strategies and strategies, planning, etc. So, and we were six. All the six of us were executive with long-term careers. So we heard when we were there that it was going to be an election in May of 2018. So we thought that because we were not politicians, maybe we were naive, we thought that in May will be our deadline to get released. So we began, one of the guys, he began to do like a countdown, a daily countdown. So every day he was like 500 minus 1, 500 minus 2, 500. And we begin to really think that we were going to be released in May. You know what happened in May? Nothing. So knowing or thinking when you're going to return is even painful. It's more painful because it gives you a lot of anxiety. And the truth of the matter that you will never know, because now that I've learned about a lot, I have been investigating a lot about this situation, the hostage diplomacy. All the cases always last for years. The average is no less than 5 years. So this is something terrible, that when somebody goes onto this, my friend, I'm not going to be responsible saying this, but it's going to be a long run, because you get caught in between the policy between two countries. So you become an actor that you don't have absolutely nothing to do in the middle of the fight of two countries. And this become kind of a national security thing. So it becomes too like some congressmen are not in favor to do no concession because it looks make you weak. It becomes all these kind of talkings, and the time goes and goes and goes and goes, and the life of the people begin to extinguish. So that the long short answer is that knowing or thinking when you're gonna come back is gonna make you more painful, because the truth of the matter is you will never know. Once you go there, you're going like in a twilight zone. And let me tell you, we always said that we will go back the same way we came in, and that's what happened. You come in a bizarre way, and you come back in also in a bizarre way. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, was there anything that, got you through it? Like any kind of practices or things that you would do to pass the time?
Well, this is very interesting, your question, because this is part of what I want now to do as life. Because as I told you, we were all, the six of us, very planned guys all our life, long-term marriage, wonderful kids, wonderful families. And we had a lot of things in common. By the way, we were not friends. Most of the six of us met in that plane. We were colleagues, not friends. We were
Okay.
not friends. Okay, so literally we met there. So the first 10 months that we were disappeared, we were all separated. And at some point, when the pressure began to be harder, they decided to put us together. When they put us together, imagine we were put like living in a closet. It was like a 100 square foot room. It didn't have no window. There was no running water, no fresh air. It was literally closed, but we were the six inside, living our life there. So what we did, we had like I always call like a board meeting among us, and we decided to do a plan to survive. Because we said, okay, now this is the situation. We had to manage this. We need to survive. So we began to have a real comprehensive way how to survive. So we begin to, in the morning, a method how to eat, to respect the silent and the individuality of each of one of us. Everyone has a timing to eat. Then we have timing to clean. Then we have a timing to by the time we were having some books to read, I was beginning to write, timing to write. We were having some Bibles, a timing to read Bible, to pray. So we stayed all a timing to shower, because we didn't have running water. So we had to use this as like this is small bottle, but the one of 5 liters. We had 3 of each of these to use it per day. So we were managing how to use the water. So we began to manage all the situation, and we did it one day at a time. We began to do it. In the first day we did it in one day. Then we figured out that there was a day. Then we did the other day. Then it became a week. Then it came a month. And I can tell you, the time passed, and we came after 5 years. So we literally managed to do it that way.
Wow. And after this, just going on to the next question here. How was like after when you got out? Because you were, I'm assuming, I don't want to, but speak for you, but I'm assuming you were a private individual, kind of like a businessman. You weren't on the media a lot, right? Before?
Well, no, before I was not a media guy. I can tell you that I was a guy that I hated the medias. Even if I have this wonderful position, I was really very low profile, to tell you the truth. I always tried to be low profile. I was not a guy to try to get exposure. And these cases gave a lot of exposure that we were not looking at, and gave an exposure not the way I would have the intention to do it, by the way. But when we begin to have some books there, at some point that we were allowed to have some books, was like one year after we were there, we began to read a lot, because our family, when they knew that we were having books, we were having some communication, like 2 or 3 minutes every 2 or 3 days, so we could talk with my wife and tell her, hey, bring me a book. Okay, so they begin to bring book to us, and we begin to read a lot. I think I read like 300 books
Oh
during my
wow.
time there. But there is a particular book that it came to my hands. That wow, that book. I said, I don't know how this book came to me. There is a survivor in the concentration camps in World War II in Auschwitz. In Auschwitz, a guy called Victor Frank. He wrote a book called The Man in the Search of a Meaning. Please, the people that are hearing me, go and read that book. That book, he that guy, he's the author of the logotherapy. And when he was writing his memoir, he said that he understood that the people that survived in the camp were the people that were stick to their spirituality, to their inner spirituality and believe in God, and get a meaning in their life. And basically, the meaning in their life was surviving for the families. The people that survived was because they had a meaning to go outside there. And when we understood that, we began to do like an anthem every night after we prayed and we read the Bible. We always were shouting out that we need to come back strong in spirit, soul, and body for our family. So it was like an anthem. We were very high, positive in that, and they gave us a lot of hope. So after I came back, I begin to realize that our situation, even that it was extreme, it was unique. Unfortunately, we were not alone in this. There are a lot of Americans that are in this situation because this hostage diplomacy is happening, and it's growing and growing in the world, and the people is not aware that situation is happening. So I'm going to talk more extensively about this.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I'm very curious. Is there any cases going on right now that you think people should be more aware of that there isn't? Yeah.
Yes, of course. Let me tell you. Let me tell you how we learn and what we are doing right now. The last year we were there, like in the fourth year, at some point, because all this pressure that the family has been doing, that was created a law to protect the people that are under this situation. This law is called the Robert Levinson Law. The Robert Levinson Law is because a guy that was disappeared in Syria like 12 years ago, unfortunately, his body never appeared, and he was declared dead. And in honor of him, the law has his name, Robert Levinson. I'm honored that I know his son and his daughter right now. Okay, so that law, how it works, that law gives you the classification of hostage and wrongfully detained. And when you got that classification, that was our case, that they do the scrutiny and say, hey, this guy is wrongfully detained. This is a sham trial. These guys are trying to negotiate among you. You get to the umbrella of the State Department to get protected by the State Department, you and your family, and they put all the diplomatic tools necessary. And there is an office in Washington called Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs, SPIHA, that is in charge of that situation. Well, the leader of that office is an Ambassador Roger Carson. He began to fly quietly to Venezuela. He did a first trip in December 2021, 1 year before we came. He began to go there. The first time we saw that guy, we said, we're closer, because it was the first time there was a one-on-one between these guys talking about us. So he flew then 3 months after in March. Then he flew back 3 months more in May. And in May, he brought one of our guys. He took one. He took back one of the guys. The 6th of Feb, one came back. So we saw that we were closer. And on October 1st, one day we were there sleeping, and they at 5 a.m. they woke up us and said, dress up, that you're gone. And they put us in a plane in San Vincent, in a Caribbean island, and they swapped. They made a swap for us, like a movie.
Wow.
Like a movie. They did a swap with
Yeah.
another guys.
Yeah.
It's a movie. Our
Wow.
life, our situation is a movie. It's a movie.
How did it
So,
feel
well,
when they said that you're going home?
we didn't believe it. I remember the top guy of coming to our jail. They never came to us. They because at some point our value was so high that they treated us like these guys are untouchable, because we became at some point untouchable, because the instruction was take this care of these guys because we're going to do something with them. So at the beginning the trip was terrible, but it began to evolve at that point, that direct conversation were happening and they begin to treat us in a different way. So when we saw the director of the prison come into our closet and say, dress up, there you're gonna go, we didn't know where we were heading. And when they begin to do some medical exams and that stuff, and we saw we were going to the airport, we realized that really we were going. We were not there because they put us handcuffed, they tied us our legs, and they were going to put hooks. I got mad. I didn't allow them to put me a hook because at that point I got scared because said these guys are going to throw us in the middle of the sea. I don't know what was going to do with us, but the truth is we landed in a very tiny island in the Caribbean called San Vicente. It's so tiny that if you look in the map, maybe it will not appear. It's in the top of Santo Domingo. In the top is a very, very tiny island. We landed there.
Near Dominican Republic?
Yeah, near, in the top. If you see in the map, in the top is a point. That is the island.
What is it called?
San Vincent and Grenadines. San Vincent and Grenadines.
Oh, okay.
It's so tiny that the plane barely, it's really tiny. So when we get there, we said, what we're doing here? And like 5 minutes, we were waiting in the tarmac. Came the plane with, the sign of the U.S. government. We saw that, okay, our hero is coming back for us. And Ambassador Carton was there for us. And then we were instructed to go to the other plane. The other guy was instructed to go to this plane. So we went through like this, and then we were headed to a military base here in San Antonio, Texas, and we stayed there 2 weeks. They give us a very awesome decompression program with psychologists, therapies, a lot of things. And let me tell you, this process is not easy. It's not easy. Anybody that said that it's easy, it's not easy, because and since there, I have 7 months, I have been going through therapies, I have been going on psychology, my family. This is something that devastates the family. This is something that the family goes to, like having a bomb in the middle of the family. It's really terrible. So my answer to the other question is that when we learned that this situation was happening, our family, like 6 months before our freed, they put together with other families, they're having the same situation, and they created a campaign called the Bring Our Family Home campaign. The Bring Our Family Home campaign today has a mural in Georgetown in Washington. You are near there in Washington, where our faces, you can see our faces. There are 19 faces there of 19 Americans that are kept in captivity. I was one. One of the other is Brittany Griner. She's part of the campaign. She's doing great with the campaign, by the way. So when we learned that the campaign, our family was working on that, when I came back, I began to work with the campaign. I went to Washington to the mural, and I began to have contact with the families, with former hostages. Today I know everybody. And let me tell you, there's a foundation called the Foley Foundation that has at least between 50 to 60 Americans are in this situation today.
Wow.
In contrast, you can be in a vacation. Let me tell you, the cases I'm talking about are real cases, the people that today are kept, people that were in Congress, people that were visiting families, people that were in vacation, people that were in seminars, normal people normally do in their life, were in the wrong country. Inadvertently, they didn't know that there was some issue between the two countries, and they got kept as bargain ship. And that situation, once you go inside that, it can be years. Can you imagine that? Years. And the family become like to get lost because they don't know how to navigate the bureaucracy. And that sometimes the press doesn't understand the cases, and they don't give coverage of the situation. So today, that now the Bringer Family Home Campaign is working together. They're more with the case of they gave a lot of visibility because she was famous. She's advocating hard for this cause. She's today like a visible face of the campaign, and she's doing great, by the way. And she has been helping him give more visibility. The journalists today are more aware about the Congress. Joint efforts to support the families and raise awareness of this situation. So that's going to improve a little bit, but more has to be done. More has to be done.
Yeah, for sure. It's like the most extreme case of wrong place at the wrong time. Just to finish it off here, because we are coming up at almost 30 minutes here. What are your plans for the future? You know, if you could talk a little bit about your book.
I have things going on. One is the book that is in editing process. I think in 2 or 3 months it's going to be outside. Maybe for the first anniversary of our release, the book is going to be out. I'm going to be giving some hints. I have today my LinkedIn account where I'm posting a newsletter talking about this because I'm really advocating on this situation today. I'm talking loudly about the hostage diplomacy today. So I'm my LinkedIn account. I'm talking about this. I have my social media. I'm going to be to give hints on my book. I'm beginning a coaching program that we developed based on our survivor guide that we developed during this time. We have named it the Life Pill for a Survivor Guide. We're putting things together because we believe that this is something that can help others in any ordeal because our situation even is unique. You have several techniques that we did as a common sense and a combination of my expertise. They have to be coaching that is something that has to be shared. The knowledge and the people about the situation of the hostage community and the way that you can help others under the adversity. So my 3 things right now is my book, my coaching program I'm going to start, and the public speaking that I'm beginning to do on this. And I have my social media. I have my LinkedIn. There are all my social medias. Now I'm working on that. It's funny because in the past I never went to the social media. Now I'm all over the social media. So I'm working hard to try to spread this message.
Okay, sounds good. I'll put all your social medias in the description too, and try to put them on the screen for people to see and follow. So everyone's stay tuned for the book and follow Jose on social medias to be in tune and be able to stay up to date on the new release and what's going on, and all the information you need will be all there. So thank you so much for taking the time with talking with me and being on the show. I think we went through a lot of deep stuff, very good content for people. I think it was useful, educational, and I think a lot of people are gonna, see that the issue is more relevant to everyone than they might have thought before. You know what I mean? As in, it can happen to everyone, like we've both said, and that's something a good takeaway from this.
Yeah. I think that the beauty of that, I appreciate you because this is something that is amazing. Every time we talk about this, the people begin. My editor, shutting my book because he's a vet. He spent some months in Afghanistan. So when she saw about my case, she began to investigate, and she got in shock about the situation. And I can tell you, Sam, when you begin to investigate, you will get in shock about the cases. I'm going to be talking about this in my following newsletter. I'm going to be try to make visible names of people that are left behind. It's amazing. The case is amazing.
Stay tuned, everybody. Stay tuned. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you.